Alright, welcome to another episode of Mob Squad News Edition. That's probably not the title, but it's
We'll
what
figure
your
it out.
friends might call it. Anyways, today we're going to do the history of Supras. Tristan will be covering that. I will be covering the history of Autometer, and Heath will be catching up in Mob Squad News. Roll the intro.
Alright, so we're going to be starting with the relevant Supras. So the MK2, which had a DOHC naturally aspirated inline 6-cylinder engine. Okay, so it had about 170 horsepower at 5,600 RPM. It did 0 to 60 in about 7.5 seconds, a quarter mile in about 16.2 seconds, and 1,000 meters in 29.9 seconds at 174 kilometers per hour. So that's, 90 miles an hour? Something like that. So from then to the MK3, the Toyota Supra had the 3.0 inline 6, had the 3.0 liter inline 6 turbo engine. Now this was a big jump in power, as it had about 235 horsepower at 5,600 RPM, and it's pretty good for the time, because I believe this 3.0 came out in the late 80s. Yes, it did. The late 80s to 1993. 1986 to be exact, to 1993. So 7 years this car was being created, I believe. So from there we go to the MK4 Supra, which is the most common Supra, which featured the 2JZ engine. Yeah, I hope you know about that.
3 Honda Civics with spoon engines.
It's a 3.0 liter straight 6 with 220 horsepower and 210 foot-pounds of torque. It is twin turboed. If you know about 2JZs, you know. The Mark IV Toyota Supra had two different engine options. There is a naturally aspirated 2JZ, which was a 3.0 liter straight 6 with 220 horsepower and 210 foot-pounds of torque. Then there is the 2JZ GTE, which is the 3.0 liter twin turbocharged straight 6 with 320 horsepower and 315 pounds of torque. That is a very, very common car. Well, not common that you could buy one. It's probably really hard to buy one, but it's really common if someone thinks of a Supra, that's what they think of. So from there we come to the 2020 Supra, and that's where things get really, really upsetting. So now they are coming in, I believe, a 4-cylinder turbocharged engine, which is pretty common with today's vehicle. Alright, so the 2020 Supra is supposed to be able to do 0 to 60 in 4.1 seconds, and it had a big jump in horsepower. It really did not, from the Mark IV. The Mark IV had 320 horsepower in the twin turbo version, and the new Mark V has 335 horsepower. Not a big difference. 15 horsepower, in case you can't do math. I understand. But the torque, it's a little important. It went up 50 pound-foot, okay? 50 pounds per foot, okay? That's actually a big jump right there. Normally, with turbocharged engines, you don't really see that big of a jump in torque unless you're going for torque, which it seems to be they were, not necessarily just horsepower, which is pretty cool. It also lost nearly 1,000 pounds, 960 pounds. So that's where those 9/10 of a second came from the 900 pounds. So really, 15 extra horsepower didn't make a whole big difference. They just lost a lot of weight in the car. And that's about all there is to talk about the Supra. I'm not a big fan of the new Supra coming out, as it's going to be a $60,000 car, 335 horsepower. That's really just kind of overpriced, in my opinion. The MK4 Supra would be the way to go, but they are pretty expensive if you were to find one. Unless it's completely stock, then I know you can find some that are about $20,000, which, yeah, that's still pretty expensive, but there's a lot of hype around that car. And I would love to have one. Wouldn't you? You can talk.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes what? Better
I
call
would
me
like to
daddy.
have one.
No, you better call me daddy.
We're not putting this in the video.
Oh yeah, it's going in the video.
You
Isn't that
better
right,
edit
Houston?
that out, Houston.
You better call me daddy. Call
Not
me
happening.
daddy.
Nope, not happening.
He normally calls me daddy.
No, I don't.
Yes, he does.
No, I don't.
What about you, Houston? Would you like to have an MK4 Supra?
Definitely.
That's on the list of dream cars. Now it's Houston's turn.
Alright, so today we'll be talking about the history of Autometer. A lot of you racers will probably know that brand because, well, you probably all have it in your race cars. They're a very popular, just gauge company, not necessarily just tacks, but let's dive into it. I'll clip that. So, Autometer started out in 1957 by Vern Westberg. So, they've been going for 60 plus years strong in the USA. Gotta love that about a brand. Made in the USA. But basically, one of their big innovations towards the racing industry, that's going in the bloopers. But one of their biggest innovations was the liquid-filled gauges, which is what we have right here. This is not a new gauge. We're not that sponsored yet. This was in one of my dad's race cars because he was sponsored for them for a while. But basically, all the vibrations from the race cars would cause the needle to mess up or be inaccurate, so they started filling them with oil, and it's a very popular thing to have in there now because they're very accurate. Although Autometer does specialize in performance gauges, they also specialize. They're not special. They're specialized in performance. Okay, they also have equipment in ATVs and boats. So I mean, if you're not a race car person, you can at least go buy Autometer for your boat or ATV like Heath. Heath is into ATVs, aren't you, Heath?
Yep.
But that's about all there is for that. I mean, although they do not just make tacks, they also make quality rev control tachometers. Quick responding tachometer is a tack.
Stuff like that.
Have any kind of gauge you want, honestly, for your car. Personally, I installed a tack on my older Charger. They were very nice about the process and what I needed for it. And they really have outstanding customer service. So I mean, if you guys want some quality gauges or are looking to upgrade your cluster, I would definitely recommend contacting Autometer for really anything. Give them a call or go look on their website, but they have a lot of cool stuff, so that is all I have for them today.
I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and click the bell so you get a notification every time we upload. Houston, you got anything else to say?
No. That's
Also, Heath's video is going to be coming out after this, so watch out for that.